presentation now.
Yes, so hello everyone. Good afternoon, sir, and my all dear friends, online friends and offline friends. Today I want to present on our second unit. So let me share my screen. Is it visible? Now, okay. So again, in this second paper, Indian English Literature Post-Independence, I want to present Quest for Female Identity in Kamala Das. Quest, we all are searching for something like we all have a journey. So in this presentation, Kamala Das always quest for female identity. So let's start key objectives. Here we see that Kamala Das and her poem, then quest for female identity in Kamala Das, and some minor points that Kamala Das is a confessional poet, interior journey through the maze of relationship, then existential loneliness and death instinct, then mythical framework and quest for identity through love, and last conclusion. So first, Kamala Das and her poem. So Kamala Das herself introduced her in the poem in introduction that I am an Indian, very brown, born in a Malabar. I speak 3 languages, write in a 2 and dream in a 1. She was a poet in Indian writing in English, writer of fiction, best known contemporary Indian writers, and all about that her poem that certainly studied Victorian models and accepted sex and sensuality as an integral part. Her poems are suffused with warmth and passion, with heat of an unrequired love and desire. So this is a small thing about Kamala Das in her poem. Yes, Kamala Das is a confessional poet. So I take reference from an introduction, her most important poem. That in this poem, she triggers of a process of introspections and self-discovery in the mind of the writer. For at the end of the poem, Kamala Das realized her essential identity with womankind. Present in a frank and a bold manner, glimpse of the poet's life, her feelings and thoughts. So Das wrote in a free verses in a colloquial style that seems to follow writer's thoughts. So here I take one quotation that it is I who drink lonely, drinks at 12 midnight in hotels of stranger towns. It is I who laugh, it is I who lie, dying with a rattle in my throat. I am sinner, I am saint, I am beloved and the betrayed. I have no joys which are not yours, no edges which are not yours. I too call myself I. So finally, the poem is expression of the poet's craving for love and of the sense of frustration and that arise on being denied it. These themes recur in Das verses. So the poetry of Das must be viewed in the light of her consciousness that she is conscious about her creative faculties and tries to break chains and retains. They include self-awareness, self-exploration, and self-introspection in order to define herself poetically. She is forced to act either as a slave or an idol. Her personality reflects the worst condition of woman. She finds herself condemned to play the part apart from her feminine self. Yes, existential loneliness in that instance. So, this reference quotation from her biography, My Story, that often I have toyed with the idea of drowning myself to get rid of my loneliness, which is not unique in any way, but it is natural to all. I have wanted to find rest in the sea and escape from involvement. So, symbolical use of the sea indicates her emotional restfulness and sad mood, reciting the self-confessional sense of melting and disintegration into nothingness. The sea becomes a safeguard for the time, right? Ridden existence, tomb then mythical framework. So throughout her multivarious relationship, the poet is in quest of her spiritual paramour, the eternal companion of the soul, Lord Krishna. In the My Story, her biography, she states that my mate is he. He shall come to me in myriad shapes. In many shapes shall I surrender to his desire. She progressed toward the transcendence of the lust of the body. She has gone out of her marital ambit. Perhaps I lost my way. Perhaps I went astray. So she finds an objective correlative for her own, identifies herself with Radha in search of Lord Krishna. Quest for identity through love. So the main feature of all Kamala Das' writing seems to be her disparate obsession with love. To her, womanhood involves certain collective experiences. A marriage of conventions, which is still a thriving system in our society, was a bitter experience for Kamala Das. My Story focuses on the central ambivalences in a woman's situation and identity. From the beginning, Das was continued to of theme and expression concerning the central quest for search for an identity. She speaks out her heart on her own premises. She redefines and liberates herself both as a woman and as a poet. She rejects masks and roles and refuses to accept the limitation of her biography. So after concluding this part, this Kamala Das writes in her usual frank open-mindedness about married life or man-woman relationship in many of her poems. She frankly complains about and men's callousness and wantonness and woman suffering on that count. The theme are nakedly embracing and focus exclusively upon the pain and the ugliness of life at the expense of pleasure and beauty. It is continuous search for female identity, which seeks redemption in her Lord Krishna of bodily forms. These are some of my references. Thank you.
Okay, questions to Riddhi, Sneha, and Stuti.
Riddhi, you talk about the quest identity in Kamala. So, can you please briefly state that in your point of view that what are the elements and themes in Kamala's poems and text?
Yes, very nice question, Sneha. Thank you for. Yes, I'm not much read about Kamala Das and her work, but yes, an introduction and my story. This type of work of Kamala Das, I say that in Kamala Das mm, wants to say that woman's life, then sexuality, then yes, I take one example of an introduction that lines of that I don't yes, I asked for love, not knowing what else to ask. For he drew a youth of 16 into the bedroom and closed the door. So also she represent miserable marriage life of her and politics also.
Hello, Riddhi. My question is, can we say that introduction poem is a confessional poem?
Please repeat your question.
Can we say that an introduction poem is confessional poem?
Yes. I what is a confessional poem? If I say that, so confessional poetry is a style of a poetry that one person narrative in this confessional poetry. So I again want to say that yes, when Kamala Das say that an introduction that I am a sinner, I am a saint, I am a beloved, I am a betrayed, I to call myself I. So here, Kamala Das address personal emotions and experiences, trademarks of confessional poetry. So yes, an introduction is a confessional poetry.